Hi. Hold on, let me just make sure this is right. I think this is good. Hello. So my parents were very poor when they were growing up. They grew up in the Middle East in Palestine. My dad is from Ramallah, which is in the West Bank, and he got as far as 8th grade before he had to stop going to school and go to work. My mom was a Palestinian refugee, and she left Palestine in '48, went to settled in Beirut. But because her parents were very poor, they sent her and her older sister away to work, and they sent money back home. So when my parents got together and they got married, they came to the US, and they had kids, they vowed to do two things. They wanted to give us two things they never had when they were growing up: a college education and a car. So I always knew I was going to go to college. I was kind of a nerd. I had no friends, so nothing was distracting me from spending a lot of time in the library, in my room. Sometimes I had like play dates with my imaginary friend Frank. But in general, I really didn't do much. So I was really excited to go to college. But I looked forward to it because I was like, maybe in college I'll make friends. Maybe I'll have a boyfriend. I felt like college is the place that you go to discover yourself. So I was really looking forward to it. I was also excited to get out of high school because at the time I shared a car with my brother Assam. Now this car was a jalopy. It was a Datsun 210, stick shift. You guys know what I'm talking about? Stick shift, rusted. The AC didn't work, the radio didn't work, it rattled all the time. But the worst part was that my brother, who I love, he lived like an animal at the time. Like he had this part-time job at a cafeteria. So when he would get back from school and he had to get ready for work, he would like get ready really quickly, come down, and he would fix himself whatever we were gonna have for dinner. So my mom would make like leg of lamb, or it would be like mlokhia, which is like this like soupy, like leafy green dish with like whatever, over rice, or like bamia, which is like okra, which nobody wants when you're a kid, but it's delicious. And it's like tomato sauce and whatever over rice. He would put it in a ceramic plate with silverware, take it to the car, put it on his knees, and eat and stick shift his way to work. And then when he was done, he would take his dirty dishes and just like throw them in the back with the rest of the dishes that he never took out of the car. So I'm just trying to go to the mall. Right? And I get in the car and I sit down, and the steering wheel is like just covered with like lamb juice, tomato sauce. There was like hummus on the like rear view mirror. There's like eggplant on the dashboard. There's rice everywhere. And then every time I go to make a right, I'm like, clicker, put the clicker on, I turn right, and all the dishes from the back jingle, jangle, jingle, jangle to the right. And then you go left and they jingle, jangle, jingle, jangle to the left. So I was like, I'm ready for my own car, and I was ready for my new life in college, and I thought the car that's gonna get me to that next level was a Honda Civic hatchback. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was really reaching for the stars. However, I told my dad this, and my dad had to sign off, right? And I said, Dad, I think I want a Honda. My dad frowned, and he goes, no Chinese. Now before, you cancel my dad. He wasn't saying that because he was racist against Asians. The truth is, my dad was a union worker. He came to the US, he learned the trades, he was a welder, he was an electrician, a plumber, and he really believed in American made. And so that's why my whole life growing up, we had an all Ford driveway, right? We had Ford trucks, we had a Grand Marquis, Grand Marquis. We had we had a Ford Fairmont. My brother, when he got into college, he got a Ford Probe, which if you don't remember what that looks like, think of like a Trans Am or an IROC, like Jersey Shore-esque. This was like the Norwalk, Connecticut version of it. It's very watered down, super boring. But I didn't want a Ford, right? I didn't want a car with no personality. Like I wanted a car that was gonna be like, here she is, guys. Be friends with her, you know? And after I looked around a little bit, I found it. I found my car, and it was a black 4-door Volkswagen Jetta with, yeah, you know what I mean? And with a sunroof that goes like this when you open it and goes like that when you close it. And it had like a cassette tape that works, so you can like fast forward, rewind to get to your song. And I was like, this is the car, this is me, this is what's gonna take me to I'm gonna get a boyfriend with this car, you know? And for some reason, my dad was like, okay, like he agreed to go and look at it. So I guess he like believed in German engineering too, I don't know. So we get to the dealer, and I was really excited because I was like, I can't believe we're here. But I was also very nervous. And that's because as much as my dad was like a, sporadic patriot, he was also at his very core a very old-fashioned, stubborn Middle Eastern man. And when it comes to money and negotiating, that guy was a shark, and he could rival any camel trader in the Sahara Desert or any rug merchant in the souks of Marrakesh. That guy was tough, and I just knew we were headed for some bumps in the road. See what I did there with the cars? So we get to the car, I show him the car, and up runs the sales guy, comes running up, Scott, right? And he introduces himself, and my dad's like, hello, Mr. Scott, you call me Mr. Sam, this is my daughter Lena. Listen, really, usually we go to Mr. Mike at Ford, he gives me a very good deal, but we'll see. So Scott was like, challenge taken, let's do this. So he shows him around the car, the gas mileage and the fuel and whatever and the warranty. And my dad's like, okay. And he starts kind of peeling himself away, and he goes over to the window with the sticker price. And he just puts his hands in his pockets and steps kind of away from it and just stares. And I was like, uh-oh. And finally, Scott notices he lost the audience. He comes over, and he notices my dad. He's like, yeah, there's a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of great features. Why don't we go into the office and talk about it? And my dad was like, okay. So they went in. And that's when I started shitting my pants, because I was like, okay, that was too easy. And I know with my dad, nothing good comes too easy. So we went inside, we're sitting in the office, and Scott pulls out the paperwork as if he's about to sell us the car, right? I was like, you have no idea what this is. So we're going through it, and my dad interrupts. Mr. Scott, this car priced at $17,500. This is too expensive. It was 1991, right? This is too expensive. I know the dealer, he marked up the car, and I am not a donkey. Which is if you're an Arab, you know what I'm talking about. And Scott was like, no, Mr. Sam, I don't think you're a donkey. I just think this is a very fair price for the class and the consumer reports and all of that. And my dad interrupts again. He's like, Mr. Scott, listen, I can go right now to Mr. Mike. I get a Ford Escort, half price. Right now, I give you an offer, $9,000 cash. I go get it from my truck, you give me the keys, and we go. Do we have a deal? And that's when I had to leave the office. I was like, this is not going the way I wanted to go. I noticed I was sweating through my one pair of Jordache jeans. I thought I was gonna dress nice for that occasion, but it was the wrong call. But I had to leave because I was really nervous, and I was like, my dad's gonna blow it. So I went searching for, at the time, my version of what tequila was, which was a Welch's grape soda. And I found it, I got the Welch's grape soda, I stuck that down, I let that high fructose syrup have its way with me, calm down. And all of a sudden, the door to the office opens, and out comes my dad, and he looks mad. And he looks at me, and I look at him, and he goes, Yalla Lena, let's go. And he takes off towards the exit. And I was pissed. I was like, what? We just got here. He gives him a lowball offer. Was he even serious? I go after him, and I'm yelling at him in the parking lot. You don't yell at my dad. But for some reason, I lost my mind. And I was like, Dad, what are you doing? How do you just give them a lowball offer? This is ridiculous. We're in America. We're not in Palestine. You can't just throw numbers around. And behind him, I hear Scott calling his name. And I know my dad heard this, but he just acted like he didn't hear it. And then Scott goes, Mr. Sam, please come back. And my dad's like, at that point, he's at the truck, and he looks back. He's like, oh, no, that's okay. We go to Ford right now. No problem, no problem. Thank you, though. Thank you for your time. And Scott comes jogging up, and he's like, please, Mr. Sam, I have the manager in the office right now. He's waiting for you. I think we could really do something. We could really work something out. And my dad reluctantly went inside. And I was just a mash of emotions, a roller coaster, just sweat. Everything was just, I didn't know what to do. So I went inside, but I didn't have the stomach to sit in the office. So I just stood outside. I kind of paced like one of those expectant fathers from the 1950s, just pacing and pretending to smoke. And 20 minutes later, the door of the office opens, and out comes my dad. And he looks pissed. And he looks at me, and I look at him, And he goes, "Yalla Lena, let's go." And he takes off towards the exit. And I'm deflated. I'm like, what were you even thinking? You know, you think you're gonna go to college and get a car and your life's gonna change like just like that? You are who you are, you know? And your future looks like a bland silver Ford Escort. That's what you're getting. So I go after my dad, and we're almost at the door, and all of a sudden my dad twirls around, and he has the biggest smile on his face, and in his hands are the keys to the Jetta. I know. And he goes, "I got the car, baby, we got the car." And I was so excited, but I was also like, I realized at that moment, this guy, he knew what he was doing all along. Like, to me, as an American, I was like, he's doing it all wrong. He's lowballing, he's storming out, he's doing all the wrong things, but in his way, he knew exactly what he was doing, and he got what he wanted. So I learned a big lesson that day. You know, I kind of looking at how my parents raised us, I thought, you know, they knew what they were doing. Sometimes things that they were doing frustrated me or embarrassed me or confused me. But all along I realized, like, they knew what they were doing. It just looked different. And the other thing that kind of stayed with me was that sometimes when you really, really want something really badly, sometimes you have to just walk away. Thank you.
Lena Rizkallah, everybody.